Hello, welcome to another video. I always say good morning when I start these videos, but it's never morning when I upload them. However, if it's morning where you are when you're watching this, good morning. This video is going to be centered more around how my autism has affected the trajectory of my life. So, I'm pretty sure I have autism. I was diagnosed with Asperger's, but of course that's outdated now, so I don't know if that's really like a valid diagnosis. Otherwise, I haven't been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, but I would say with complete confidence that I do have autism. I'm somewhere on the autism spectrum. I relate to the symptoms, and when I sort of started looking at my life through that lens, a lot of things started making a lot more sense. So that's why I say I have autism, even though I don't have a diagnosis. If you're one of those people that thinks, you can't self-diagnose or whatever, well, I mean, in some cases, certainly there are people that are jumping to a conclusion without doing the proper research, but I have been on this journey of trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me for my entire life. I've been to many different therapists. Most of them, when I asked for an autism assessment, they said they were not qualified to do that and they would have to send me to a specialist. Autism diagnosis for adults is a very, very recent thing, which is most likely why I've been able to be in the mental health system for the majority of my life and not get diagnosed with autism. And by the time I sort of put things together and started realizing that I probably do have autism, I was pretty sick of therapy and medication and psychiatry and all this stuff, and I really didn't want to do it anymore. And I haven't been to therapy in a little while now. So let's talk about why. What are my symptoms, right? Well, I've always had issues with eye contact. That's the number one thing. I've always had sensory issues where I get very, very overwhelmed. I've been called blunt and rude and too honest and arrogant before, when from my perspective I'm just communicating normally. I've had communication issues with other people for my entire life. I also, thinking back, have attracted autistic people to me just by existing, which apparently is a thing that happens. We attract each other. We communicate with each other better than we communicate with other people. And some autistic people have a radar for other autistic people, so they can find each other. And so even before I knew I was autistic, I was being surrounded by autistic people that probably sensed some kind of vibe about me. When I briefly, during the times that I went to public school, anytime there was an autistic kid, they would come and try to be my friend. I remember the first time I went to therapy, there was an autistic kid there that also tried to be my friend in the waiting room. And basically, anytime I met somebody with autism, they really, really liked me for some reason. Which, I mean, that's not a diagnostic criteria, but, take that as you will. I was a problem child. They called me a problem child, but they also called me a gifted kid. I was really, really passionate and talented about a particular few things that I was interested in, and everything else I had no interest in, and I could not bring myself to put any real energy into them, especially when it comes to school. I attributed a lot of the manifestations of my symptoms to being homeschooled, because I was homeschooled for the majority of my schooling. And I thought, oh, I'm just socially awkward because I haven't been socialized properly. Or I don't understand social conventions because I was homeschooled. I can't make eye contact because I don't have enough practice because I was homeschooled. Stuff like that. That's sort of how I rationalized my symptoms, and probably how other people rationalized my symptoms too. My parents could tell that something was wrong with me. But unfortunately, they were just very ill-equipped to handle a traumatized autistic child, and by the time they got their hands on me, I was traumatized. When I say my parents, I'm actually talking about my grandparents that adopted me after my biological mom died, and my biological dad was never in the picture. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information about how I was as a child, as a very young kid. But I do know that from the age of 7 onward, I was extremely depressed, extremely shy, socially anxious, not making eye contact, all the typical like autism symptoms that could appear in a child. I wasn't like a toe walker or anything like that. My stims are all things that are fairly maskable, I suppose, like cracking my knuckles and playing with my hair and stuff like that. Things that are fairly normal. I was just described as like fidgety, essentially. But yeah, my parents weren't really equipped to deal with me. After a while, they did send me to therapy. Actually, they sent me to a psychiatrist first thing. And the psychiatrist, when I was 14 years old, diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, which I no longer think is correct. I was put on medications for bipolar disorder, mood stabilizers, and I mean, that went on for about 2 years. And I think my parents were assuming that this medication would just fix me and that I would just magically be okay and whatever they wanted me to be for the rest of my life. And then after 2 years, when I complained that these medications are not making me feel any happier or more motivated, they did sort of imply that, like, you're just not trying hard enough to be a normal person, right? You need to have discipline. You need to have work ethic. You need to, have the American dream. Like, you need to get your priorities in order. And at the time, my priorities were just to be happy, just to try to, feel like life was worth living. And again, I'm like a teenager when this is happening. I was depressed and upset for my entire adolescence and childhood. My parents didn't think about autism, but I did get that bipolar diagnosis, bipolar 2. So because things were so tense with my parents, I ended up leaving the house when I was 17, just about to turn 18. And I tried to, make it in life. I tried to find some place to live and get a job and, do the things that I believed were the only, right way forward. And here's where my symptoms really, really messed me up. I've had a lot of different kinds of jobs, pretty much every entry-level job there is available. I've done retail, I've done manufacturing, I've done warehouse, I've done call center, sales, I've done housekeeping at a hotel. I've done all kinds of jobs and none of them were suitable for me. Every single job, no matter what people tell you about, warehouse jobs, manufacturing, the trades, those are great jobs for autistic people. All of those jobs involve some social element. And that is the big killer for me. Also, just the lack of fulfillment. But there were some jobs I did that could have been fulfilling if I was treated better. But it's always the social aspect and the bureaucratic aspect that really makes me burn out when I have a job. When I was working, that's what burned me out most, was the social aspect of it, the fact that you're expected to socialize like a neurotypical person with nobody making any attempt to understand your communication style, and also just the menial bureaucracy of it. It was always just so frustrating. I'll give you an example. I worked at a manufacturing place. It was a metal manufacturing place. I worked with power tools to grind large pieces of metal that would later be used in sewer systems. They were like pieces of pipe and stuff like that. And, it could be a fulfilling job. I'm providing parts for sewer systems and water systems around the country. That's a good thing, sure. But when I got to the job, I was given a pair of gloves, and I was told that it's mandatory to wear gloves. You can't not wear gloves because of the OSHA regulations. But the gloves they gave me were too big, and I had like half an inch of glove hanging off of each of my fingers, flopping around. And I asked for smaller gloves, and they said, sorry, these are the smallest ones we have. So I bought my own gloves, and I bought anti-vibration gloves, which supposedly would protect my hands from the vibrations of the power tools so that I wouldn't end up with nerve damage. I also asked if they provided face masks to protect against the metal dust that was flying in the air from all these people grinding metal. And I was told that the OSHA regulation for dust particulate in the air, that they were under that, so they had no need to provide masks or respiratory gear to their employees. And I mean, I had a face covered in black dust, my boogers were pitch black, The mucus coming out of my lungs was gray. They had a sink with this gravelly, like gritty soap for the employees to all come and wash their hands and sandpaper the metal off of their skin at the end of every day. And at the end of every shift, everybody all at once would grab a broom and start sweeping, which would kick all that dust up into the air, surely to the point where it was over the regulation, over the point where they would need to provide masks. But probably whenever they tested the air was nowhere near the brooming time, the sweeping time. It's things like this, right? Things like that really frustrate me. You're expected as an employee to just accept these things. Like, oh, well, the OSHA regulation says that the dust isn't at harmful levels. But when I look at my boogers and when I look at these people sweeping every day, I see dangerous levels of dust. I'm anxious about that. And when you say it's mandatory for me to wear gloves, but you won't provide me safe gloves to wear, what am I supposed to do about that? I'm supposed to use my own money to buy my own gloves. I also used my own money to buy face masks. And I only worked at that place for about a month because that kind of thing really tired me out. That kind of thing really frustrated me. Because again, as an employee, you're just expected to deal with this stuff. You don't have any power, any say over, your own safety at a job like this. And this was a unionized job, by the way, Teamsters union. So even warehouse jobs that are unionized, that have OSHA regulations, even they do not take the safety of their employees into account to the degree that they should. Am I willing to lose a finger for my job? No. Absolutely not. I'm not even willing to cut my hair for my job or shave my beard for my job. What makes you think I'm going to wear these flip-floppy gloves? And you're making me buy my own? This kind of thing is just the most frustrating thing because I have a very strong sense of justice, which for me manifests as a sense of self-respect. And of course, respect for other people. I give other people the same kind of respect that I give myself. So when I see other people being mistreated in the same ways that I am, I get upset. Those are just some examples of the ways that these jobs, no matter what job you have, will mistreat you and will disrespect you. They will not take your needs into account. They will not take your safety fully into account, but they will pretend that they are. And when you ask some higher up about it, they'll act like you're bothering them. They'll act like, why are you bringing this up? Just get back to work. Just, settle down, provide capital, get your paycheck. What does it matter if you might lose a finger or something? Maybe you'll get some kind of workers' compensation if you do, right? Maybe that would be great. Haha, silly joke. These are not the kinds of interactions that I want to be having at my job when I'm bringing up safety concerns to my managers. So that's one part of it. Just the way that employment is set up to operate is not respectful to the employee, and I can sense that, and I do not like it. I don't like it at all. And I do not tolerate it. I would literally rather be unemployed than work at some job that does not respect me and does not take my safety and my health into account. And that includes my mental health. There's also the sensory component to it. I get a headache when I walk into a grocery store. Just walking into a grocery store gives me a headache. It's a sensory nightmare. You've got the lights, you've got the loud echoey noises, you've got the people everywhere, you've got the bright colors and visual clutter all over the place. And if I don't have a plan for what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna get when I go into that store, and if I don't get in there, get it and get out, I enter like a fugue state. I enter like a disassociative state whenever I spend too much time in a grocery store. And this is entirely because of my sensory sensitivities. So how am I expected to be able to work in an environment like that, right? Like I wear sunglasses. I tend to try to wear a hat that has a brim. All of that just to keep the light away. I can still see perfectly fine. In fact, I have a better than average night vision, which means that during the day, if I'm wearing sunglasses, I can see just as well as anybody else can. I wear them indoors, but people think that's suspicious. People think that's not socially acceptable to wear sunglasses and a hat indoors because that stuff is for outside where the sun is really intense. But I mean, the fluorescent lights of a retail establishment, or pretty much any building these days, that hurts my eyes. That gives me a headache. It's painful. I can't handle that. Sounds can also be painful. So I'll tend to wear, headphones or something like that. And those are accommodations that are not allowed at most jobs. So if you want a deeper understanding of why it's difficult to hold a job when you're autistic, there is tons of information on the internet about this, and all of that information fits with my experience pretty well. I have not been able to hold a job, except for one exception, for more than 4 months. Every single job I've had, I have not been able to hold it for more than 4 months. Because it's just soul crushing. It just completely ruins my health, physically and mentally. So, partially because of my inability to hold a job, and partially because of my social difficulties, I ended up in this cycle of fallout, where I would, after I left my parents, that was the first fallout. I fell out with my parents, and they decided they didn't want to support me anymore. I moved out, and I moved in with some friends in their apartment, and then I fell out with them because I wasn't able to hold a job and pay rent. And then I moved to California, and I wasn't able to even get a job, and I fell out with my friends there. And it was basically just like I would, go and find a group of people to try to support me and be my friends, and, have a place where I could like split rent or whatever. And I would be unable to hold a job, and I would start getting into like social issues with people where they started to dislike me because I'm like too honest, I'm too blunt, whatever, right? I have ideas about the economy and politics that they don't like. Even if we're like politically aligned, a lot of the time if I say, this economy is not worth working in, a lot of people will say, well, you gotta get a job anyway. Even if they agree with me on that, they'll immediately jump to the, well, you gotta get a job anyway. Why? Because they want my money. Because they want me to make money so they can ask me for some of it. This has always been the major sticking point, is that I cannot hold a job, and therefore I'm not worth keeping around. And people in my life that are just my friends, they decide eventually, well, this guy's not, my blood family or anything. There's no reason to keep supporting him and, keep him around. So we're just gonna kick him out, or we're just gonna leave him alone, or we're just gonna, ghost him. And I've had some severe mental breakdowns, what people would say is an autistic meltdown, because of these social issues, right? People urging me to do things that I just don't have the ability to do. And then really not understanding or making an attempt to understand me, my communication style, my work style, the way that I do things, the way that I see the world. Really just very little attempts to understand those things. And so I got into this cycle where people would like me at first and want to be my friend. They would think I'm like charismatic and funny or whatever, that I'm smart, that I have good ideas. And then as soon as they find out that I have immense amounts of self-respect and that I can't hold a job, that's basically it. That's the beginning of the end of any friendship I have. And I've also been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder because of this cycle of fallout, which again, I don't think is correct. Because I don't do that thing that borderline people do, where I split on people, right? I don't do that. I don't have that black and white thinking way of doing things. Other than, the turbulent relationships aspects, I don't have any of the borderline personality disorder symptoms beyond that. So I don't know why that particular psychiatrist diagnosed me with that. I think it was in an attempt to help me get on disability, but I don't think it's accurate. I think I've simply been in this cycle of fallout because I've been ostracized, because after a while people realize that I'm not a functional human being and that I'm never really going to be like normal the way they want me to be, and so they reject me. And over time I have lost all of my supports in life. And what this comes down to is people have always told me that something is wrong with me, and that I need to fix it, that it is my responsibility to get better, and that if I don't, if the medication and the therapy isn't working for whatever reason, then it's my fault and it's my responsibility, and that they have absolutely no responsibility to try to understand me, what I'm going through, and why I'm having so much difficulty in life. So I've decided to mostly just be alone. I don't have much difficulty maintaining friendships on the internet because my communication style really shines on a text-based format, where I can have time to like think about what I'm gonna say, and I don't have to worry about eye contact and expressions and body language and all this stuff. But otherwise, I've mostly just been alone. I have in-person friends. I don't spend a whole lot of time with them. And I really, really prefer to spend most of my time alone because of all of the times that I've been burned by other people. Even, just trying to be people's friend. It really just doesn't work out for me. So pretty much as soon as I left my parents' house, I had been couch surfing and living in my car on and off, up until now, where I still live in my car. I'm trying to get a van, so that I can put a shower and a kitchen and a bed and everything in there that I need, and that can be my home. It's gonna lower my expenses so that I don't really need to engage with this system anymore, make a whole lot of money so that I can pay rent or a mortgage or whatever. I just have completely given up on that route. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think there is definitely work that I can do, ways that I can earn money that will work for me, which is why I'm trying to do this YouTube thing. You don't need a ton of subscribers to make a decent amount of income on YouTube. So I'm hoping that over time, as my subs grow, I can get memberships, I can start doing ads, and hopefully that'll just be enough money for me to live off of, posting videos about my life in the van, the build process, my philosophies about life, etc., gaming content. I don't know, whatever works is what I'm going to be doing, but this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I was always discouraged away from it. I was always told, oh, that's a saturated market, you don't have the skills for that, you need money for that, etc. Just go get a normal entry-level job and then build your way up by your bootstraps like a true American. That's what people were telling me. And I really, really wish somebody had encouraged me to do this YouTube thing sooner, because I'm actually seeing a fair amount of success with this. And I really, truly believe that this is the way forward for me. Because here's the thing. I'm not stupid, right? And I'm not lazy either. I have put a lot of work into a lot of various projects and things in my life, even things that I really did not want to do. I do things I don't want to do pretty much every day. I am no stranger to that. So when people say, oh, you just don't want to do this, you have to want to do it, I don't have any difficulty doing things I don't want to do if they are necessary. If they are truly necessary for me, my priorities, and my goals. It's not that I don't have my priorities straight, which is what my parents would have me believe. It's that I saw immediately, as soon as I entered the adult economy, the adult world, I saw immediately that this is all bullshit, that this is going to be way too difficult for the reward that you get. There's going to be way too much work for, the value that comes out of it. And I will be trapped in a entry-level position for the rest of my life if I try to do this. But my parents were stuck in, and a lot of the people that I was friends with were stuck in the idea that the American dream is still possible, that it's still a reality. And so by not achieving it, or by not even attempting to achieve it, I am lazy, I'm a failure, I don't want to work, etc., etc. Here's the thing though, I am not lazy. Like I said, I do work all the time. I've put a ton of work into various different projects that I'm passionate about. When I'm really motivated to do something, and when I really believe in it and I really want to do it, I can work so hard, and I can do it for a long time. I can keep that momentum up for a long time if I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And I'm not financially illiterate either. That's another thing that my parents would have me believe. My dad was making somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 a year, which is incredible. That's a lot of money. That's like middle class money right there. And he was telling me that I was making bad financial decisions. Well, here's the thing. Why did we lease these big houses, these big 3-bedroom houses for a 3-person family? Why did we lease these huge houses and act like we were HGTV millionaires, moving from place to place and renting these houses, essentially? How much money did he pay for that? Why did my mom have a Mustang for like 15 years? Why did we always have multiple computers and laptops and the newest iPhone and the newest digital toys? Why did we always spend all that money on those? Why did he need fancy leather cases for every single one of his iPads or his laptops? Why was my college fund literally a piggy bank filled with like $2,000 worth of pennies? Who is making the bad financial decisions here? Why did my mom have so much jewelry? Like expensive jewelry, like payment plan expensive jewelry. Why does she have all of that? You know, you're telling me I'm the one that doesn't have financial intelligence or literacy when you're acting like you have more money than you have, and then neglecting certain of my needs and my desires because you'd rather have fancy things for your wife. And then you tell me that I'm making bad financial decisions because I simply don't have enough money to save anything. This is the same man that tells me to this day, if I want a job, just to go walk into a warehouse and ask to speak to the manager and ask for a job, shake their hand firmly, present myself as a man, and I will get the job. And every time he says that, I tell him, okay, what am I going to do about the trespassing charges then? Because you can't do that. It does not work. The first couple times he told me that, I actually went and did it. Not at warehouses where I was trespassing, but he was like, just go to Target and walk in and ask for a job. Ask to get a job. Ask for an interview. And I went in, I asked for a job, and they said, you're going to have to apply online. We don't do that here. That's what they'll tell you. You got to apply online. So he's recently retired, but he, worked the same job for like 40 plus years, and he has not had to apply for a job or try to get one in that entire time. And he's trying to give me advice of just walk in, and he very much did not understand why I had difficulty getting a job in the first place, much less why I had difficulty holding a job. And so because not only from that, from my parents, but also from the people around me that I was friends with and that I was trying to be roommates with and stuff like that, trying to share the expenses, none of those people really cared to understand the full context of what I was going through when it came to holding a job. Everybody in my life was essentially telling me that I simply was not working hard enough, that I was lazy, that I didn't want success, and that I just needed to try harder. And I tried as hard as I possibly could. At this point, it's been a decade of adult life that I have been trying as hard as I possibly can to maintain a job and, rent an apartment and have a place to live. And at some point, I have just given up on that because it's just not going to happen. I've shifted my focus to a more realistic goal, and I am not anymore going to listen to people telling me any of that bullshit about how it's my fault, about how, there's welfare programs out there, just use those, I've been trying so hard for so long and completely failing through no fault of my own. Well, I can't say no fault. I've certainly made mistakes just like everybody has. But like I said, I've been trying really, really hard. What I need is an environment where I have the freedom and autonomy to do things that interest me, that can provide value to the world, put those things out there, and then reap the benefits monetarily. Which again is why I'm trying to become a content creator. This is really the only job that I think I could have and not go insane. And so far it's been a lot of fun, and so far I have a lot of faith in it. This really seems like something that I can I've been doing this for a month already so far, and I'm not really burned out. I'm not getting any sense of like, this is gonna be tough, this is gonna be too difficult for me, etc. Like I would be at this point if I was working a traditional job of some kind. Honestly, this is really fun, and I have a lot of faith that it's gonna work out for me. So this is what I'm doing. Trying to be neurotypical and ignore my autism did not work. It's simply not going to work for me. The amount of times that I've been offered vocational training, I know how to get a job. I know how. It's not like I'm not dumb. Like, I've been doing this for so long, and people are like, oh, you just need a little training. You just need to learn how to socialize a little better. It's like, sure, I could learn those skills, right? In fact, I have those skills. I can socialize pretty smoothly with neurotypical people without them noticing anything is weird or wrong about me. They might think I'm a little eccentric at the most. That does not help. What you're asking me to do is not only do the same job that other people are doing, put in that effort, but also to put in effort to remember and practice and think about all of these other skills and things that are completely unrelated to the job. I have been fired from jobs because I am just not social enough. I was doing fantastic. I mean, I was doing a great job. I was one of their top performers at this one job, and yet I was still let go. I wasn't fired. It was a temp job, right? So it was a temp to hire, which means I was there temporarily. They would assess my performance, and then they would hire me if my performance was good enough. My performance was good enough, and they did not hire me, citing social difficulties, that I just didn't get along with the other employees. I thought I was getting along with them just fine, but I was just kind of shy and quiet, which is very normal for me at the beginning of, when I've just met people, right? But, because these people were offering me to come eat lunch with them, and I prefer to eat my lunch alone so I can talk to my internet friends and stuff like that, just because I prefer to be alone during lunch, and I wasn't going to hang out with them during lunch, and because I was shy and quiet, doesn't matter that I was doing my job, I still got let go. I still didn't get hired permanently to that position because of that. What sense does that make? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I was denied a job opportunity that it would have been great for them and for me. I was denied that opportunity just because I'm quiet and shy and I prefer to be alone at lunchtime. This is the kind of world that autistic people are living in. This is the kind of world, this is the kind of thing that prevents autistic people from having success. This is the reason that I am homeless. This is a part of the reason that I have not been able to maintain a job, because there's all of this extra effort, all of these extra hidden expectations on top of your job. Oh, anyway, look. If you have had difficulty maintaining a job for the reasons that I've listed here, if you relate to this, if it resonates with you, let me know in the comments, right? First of all, you're not alone. This is happening to a lot of people. There's a slightly contested number, a figure of 80%-ish of autistic people that are unemployed. Of all autistic people in this survey area, 80% of them supposedly were unemployed or underemployed or underpaid. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense, because we are perfectly capable people. We can do these jobs. Even in jobs where we do great, if we don't socialize properly, then we're just bad people. We're suspicious. We're not working hard enough. We're lazy, etc., etc., etc. It's just all bullshit. So October is Disability Unemployment Awareness Month. I didn't know that before I decided to make this video, but it's very appropriate for this month, I think. Because, I mean, straight up, my autism is the reason that I'm homeless now. My autism is the reason that I have been rejected from society. Because I did my best. I really did my best to fit in and do what people were telling me I needed to do. And I just was rejected. I was just pushed away, ostracized, and just pushed out every single time. So I'm doing my own thing now. If you suspect that you have autism, definitely try to get a diagnosis if you can. But understand that if the shoe fits, it's probably the answer, right? If this resonates with you and it makes sense to you and it seems similar to something that you've gone through, then it might be time to consider the autism angle. I don't know where I lie on the spectrum. I just know that there are certain things that I definitely relate to and that have definitely seriously and legitimately affected my life. These are just natural aspects of my brain, just the way my mind and my brain works. So, anyway, like I said, I do live in my car. I am homeless at the moment. I'm trying to get a van. I'm currently shopping for the van, and I'm going to be posting the build videos on YouTube on this channel once I start the build process. I'm trying to live in a van because it will be reducing my expenses. I won't have to pay rent or anything like that. I won't have to pay utilities. I'll have solar panels so I get my own electricity. And it's just gonna make a cheap and humble and safe space for me to live and exist in. This is a project that I've been really eager to do for a long time. And once that's done, I will be posting more on this channel. Hopefully once I have my van, I'll be able to get some better gear so I won't just be making this on my phone. Maybe I can do some streams, some Patreon content in the future. I don't know. There will be links to support me in the description below. I'll have my van fundraiser there, and I'll have my Patreon. Patrons $10 and over are going to get shout outs in my future videos. And I'll have some links where you can support me more directly, since I don't have an income right now. I don't have a job, and it's just not gonna happen. But if you think that this video is worth your time, if you've watched all the way to this point, please do consider supporting me in some way. Like the video, sub to the channel to follow my journey out of homelessness and to keep up with me and hear more about my experiences with mental health and with homelessness and all of this stuff. And again, if this resonates with you, definitely leave a comment. Definitely let people know that they are not alone in this. And remember to respect yourself, no matter how inconvenient it is for other people. As long as you're not hurting other people, you're fine. Don't let anybody ever tell you to put your self-respect aside so that you can make money, because there are other ways to do it that do not involve disrespecting yourself and being trapped in a cycle of employment that will just burn you out and ultimately stress you out to the point of harm. There's other ways to live. And thank you so much for watching, and have a peaceful day.